What's up, guys and gals? Sanitary 103, thanks for watching yet another video. So in today's installment, I'm going to go over 5 essential tips on meal planning. Now, meal planning basically refers to planning out your meals in advance. I typically prep all my meals on Sunday mid-afternoon, and I have all my meals ready Monday through Friday for work. Doing this has a few advantages. For one, you don't have to worry about the hassle of, let's say, midweek, you're really tired, you're working overtime, and you don't have time to cook a meal during the week. And the other thing that is great about prepping your meals in advance is that it lessens the chances of you being tempted to go out to eat. And this being a health and fitness channel, the last thing you want is temptation, and also you could save a few bucks, and you can also control the portions and control what ingredients you put into your food. Now, before I go over these tips, I'm sure some of you guys and gals out there are saying, well, it's pretty self-explanatory, right? I cook my chicken, I cook my beef, I get it ready, I put it in a Tupperware, and I'm good to go. Now, that is true for the most part. You are getting the gist of it, the bulk of it, but there are a few things that you might miss, which I have through trial and error, so I'm gonna go over these tips, so let's get started. So tip number 1 is basically what I have in my hand right here is extra virgin olive oil. And this is great for preventing and minimizing the chances of your chicken or your fish, basically any type of meat. Although I wouldn't say any type of meat, because ground beef is it's kind of its own category, but mostly for chicken and for fish, but especially chicken. Chicken can get really dry, so whatever seasoning you use, if you use paprika, salt and pepper, really basic, some chili powder, whatever concoction of spices you use, one great thing is olive oil. You want to drench a little bit on your chicken, let's say, and then put the spices in and let it soak into a bowl for at least 15 to 30 minutes. This olive oil, you got to trust me on this, it's going to help keep the chicken or the fish a little bit more moist. So when you do reheat it, it's going to lessen the chances of dryness. And the last thing you want is dry food. Moving on to essential tip number 2 for meal prepping, and that is to not have long cooking times, especially when you're cooking your vegetables. And right here I have some broccoli right here. And the reason for that is, unless you're gonna eat the broccoli cold and raw, if you're gonna use the microwave, unfortunately what's gonna happen is when you reheat it, it's gonna get more soggy. So with your vegetables, and in this example with the broccoli, you cut it up, you put it on the stove, you heat it up, and once it bubbles just a little bit, just turn it off. You don't have to nuke it all the way through. If you nuke the broccoli all the way through when you're cooking it, what's gonna happen? You're gonna put it in the Tupperware, you're gonna let it sit there, it's gonna already be soft, and then you're gonna re-microwave it, so you're basically giving it double heat and radiation, and you don't wanna do that. And by doing that, your broccoli's gonna get really, really soggy, so keep the cooking time to pretty minimal and allow the microwave to do the rest, and by doing that, your vegetables are gonna be a little bit more crunchy. Tip number 3 on meal prepping, and this may seem a little bit obvious, but sometimes a lot of the more obvious things are the things that people overlook, and that is you need to make sure before you eat to smell your food. And smelling your food isn't just to admire the great work that you've put in, which is awesome, give yourself a pat on the back, but the main reason is you want to make sure that the food is not spoiled. Let's say you prep your meals on Sunday like I do. When you're getting close to that Thursday or that Friday, is a possibility that it could smell a little funky, and if it does, you definitely want to probably toss it. And if it's during the summertime, it's a possibility that maybe your fridge isn't cold enough, and that might increase the chances of it getting spoiled more quickly. So make sure that you smell your food. And since we were talking about spoiled food, let's move on to essential tip number 4 for meal planning. And that is, if you're gonna eat fish, beef, and chicken, let's say, you probably want to eat the beef a little bit earlier in the week, the fish midweek, and the chicken a little bit longer. Now, this is all based on my personal experience, based on smelling it, like I mentioned in the last tip. But the beef, you don't want to mess around too much with that. When it gets close to that 2-minute warning, you don't want to get to that point. So it's a better chance that it could spoil first. And that's just the way I roll. Chicken seems to hold up pretty durable. So to be on the safe side, if you're eating fish, chicken, or beef, and you have a combination of the 3 throughout the week, try to eat the beef and the fish earlier in the week. And last but not least is tip number 5 for meal prepping, and that is basically to let your food rest after it's made, and don't put it immediately in the fridge. So right here I have a nice little Tupperware. It's a Pyrex, it's a great brand. So let's say you make some chicken and some brown rice and some broccoli, right? Pretty basic meal. And you put it in, it's all hot and steamy. Don't immediately put this and seal it and throw it in the fridge. I don't care if you're on the run whatsoever. You don't want to do that. Hot food can even stay at room temperature for up to an hour before it spoils. And even that, it's a pretty low chance. And the reason you want to do this is if you have hot food in here and you seal it immediately, and then you put it in the fridge, the food in the fridge, once it's in there, may not cool evenly because it might be harder to cool down in the center as opposed to the sides, and you don't want uneven distribution of coolness. And the other thing is that you don't want the refrigerator trying to work overtime to try to cool down your food. You want your food to cool down as best as possible, and by sealing in the food, you're doing a disservice, and it also increases the chances of bacteria because the food obviously is hotter, it's contract all the way in, and basically, you know, it's gonna, like I said, increase the chances of, you know, getting bacteria and getting sick. So definitely what I like to do is once it's done, I kind of just, let me show you right here. So let's say the food's right here. I kind of just lightly put the lid over like that. I don't close it all the way. And I just let it sit there for, you know, 30, 45 minutes. And then when I'll touch it, and then I'll just, once it's like pretty cool, I'll put it in the fridge. That's about it for this video. I hope these 5 tips for meal planning was helpful. If you would like to see some of my healthy meals that I prepare during my week and show you what I do in the kitchen, I'll put a link to my healthy meals playlist right here. Thanks once again for watching this video. Be sure to subscribe for all the latest in diet, health, and fitness. If not already, I put out at least 2 to 3 videos per week, and I'll see you guys next time. Bye. I don't think science can put an exact number. They can't have a special equation and say, boom, you know, compute it and say, this is what everybody needs. Everybody